The Ohio state government has been given a lot of credit for engaging not only with industry to learn more how to smooth the path for this, but with environmentalists as well to try to safeguard the public health. There were a total of 100, if I am correct, new natural gas permits approved in 2011 in Ohio, and at the current rate this year, the number of new permits in 2012 is expected to surpass that. And as the state races to adapt and write a new framework for rules, how is the state's oversight and regulation keeping pace with the speed of current shale energy development? And I'm going to let whoever wants to answer. Of course, Lou will want to take some time on that.
I think it's important for us to understand that we have a domestic industry which has been outstanding. They came to us 3 years ago with legislation that worked in this particular area, environmental protections. The industry brought us the bill. They wanted to be certain that before any of this was really widely known, they wanted to be certain that they were going to be doing a good job for the citizens of Ohio. And the Ohio Oil and Gas Association has been a leader in actually protecting the environment. And that kind of effort has put us in a good position to go forward in those areas. The governor is very interested in these things. We've had a lot of excitement this year in a number of areas. For example, we had a group of, I call them erotic animals. That goes in your committee, right? A whole bunch of animals broke out on a farm, and so now we're having to work on legislation. I'm not kidding. Having to do with bears and lions and tigers and all kinds of snakes. And this is going to be probably one of the most interesting sessions I've been in, and that takes in a lot of sessions. But I just want to make clear that the oil and coal industry in this state are very, very much a blessing to us because of their attitude.
I wanted to echo some of the speaker's comments. I had the privilege of authoring the last two pieces of oil and gas legislation, House Bill 278 and then most recently Senate Bill 165. And in both instances, the way I operate is I bring all parties to the table. And so we had obviously the oil and gas industry there, we had the administration there, but we had the environmental community there. And I think through that process, we heard the concerns, we addressed many of those concerns, but I give most of the credit to the industry for stepping up and saying, listen, we know some things are going to be changing. I'd like to say that we anticipated the shale oil play when we passed 165. If I had known that, I would have been buying property in Eastern Ohio. So we didn't anticipate it, but we knew there were some things happening and there was some potential. And it was very important that the industry, to the industry, one, that we had the right regulatory framework in place. They wanted to make sure we had enough inspectors so that when they were ready to drill, that they weren't being unnecessarily delayed because we did not have enough people in the field to inspect their rigs and keep the process going. So they were very forthright in one, advocating for raising their fees so that we did have the resources to pay for those inspectors, making sure we had the regulatory oversight, making sure that we had the environmental concerns considered. Because at the end of the day, as I tell my friends in the environmental community, no one wakes up and says, what can I do to ruin the environment today? I mean, from a purely selfish standpoint, if you never cared about the environment, you don't want the liability that comes with making a mistake. You don't want the public relations disaster that comes with making a mistake. So I have a fundamental belief that industry is always going to try to do the right thing, if only for their own selfish interest, to make sure that they're protecting their shareholders, they're protecting their assets. And so what we did was engage all the parties in the conversation, and I think at the time we were told we had one of the more robust regulatory programs in the country. I do think now as we look at what's going to ramp up, unfortunately with the price of natural gas, we're not seeing as fast a ramp up as we had anticipated, but clearly as these rigs get in the field and we find out, as Dave mentioned, what are the resources, what are the potential revenues from these wells, we are going to ramp up very quickly, and we are going to have to figure out how do we make sure that we're able to also provide the regulatory framework that oversees that. It will be a challenge, and frankly, that's part of the tension right now between the industry and the administration in terms of how many people do we need in the field, when do we need them, what's it going to cost, who's going to pay for it. So that's all part of the energy MDR debate we're in right now.
And the President mentioned that debate that's taking place, and actually I just left committee to be here today, something that's being discussed now. A couple of the things that have popped up in the MBR, and there's still quite a bit of debate around those issues. One is the disclosure of the chemicals that's being debated right now in committee, certainly. And then another issue that has arisen that we need to just make sure that we're properly overseeing is the disposal of wastewater. And so there's going to be, I believe, in this MBR, fee increases for getting a lot of out-of-state brine that's coming into the state of Ohio. So that's an issue that we have to carefully monitor, I think. And I get a lot of questions from people in the community about that. And those are important issues that have to be addressed. We just need to make sure that as this industry does ramp up, that our Department of Natural Resources is in a good position to properly handle this additional investment that's coming here and more activity.
If I can just follow up on that quickly, under the